Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in practice ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paschasya Deshakarine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, having taken shelter at Lord Krishna's lotus feet. O Master, our obeisances unto you, servant of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching a message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western countries, which is full of Buddhism and impersonalism. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vas, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today I've prepared a presentation. Usually whenever I give a discourse, it's always based on our wonderful literature, so Bhagavad Gita, and so forth. So today is a little bit unique where I've prepared a presentation based on some of our outreach efforts and why it's important to share Krishna consciousness. Since it's a presentation format, it may be a little bit hard to see if you're back. So maybe if I can request if everyone can come a bit forward, maybe like 3 feet forward. Maybe you can get up and get the yoga mats, and including for the Prabhus as well, so that it's just a little easier for you to see. And then I would also like to have a volunteer with a microphone, so that that's good. We'll have some quiz, questions, so we can make it interactive. So it's not meant to be sort of a formal lecture, but it's more meant to be an interactive presentation. And if you have your cell phones with you, if you can put them on silent, so that would be appreciated. So your phones are silent or vibrate or whatever, just so that it's not too disturbing. All right. And you can hear me fine in the back. Excellent. All right, so showing is caring, and this presentation is dedicated to Srila Prabhupada, who is our founder Acharya, and he has a volunteer ready. Perfect. So we have several pictures here, and I guess everything turned up okay. That's good. So we'll begin like we normally as we read from the top left, first row going to the right, and then the bottom row as well. So can someone describe me what's on the top left row? What's happening there? Anyone got to raise their hand? Yes, okay.
Krishna giving the instructions to Brahma. Krishna giving the instructions to Brahma.
What instructions?
Creation.
Yeah, creation, the Vedas, right? Yeah, that's right. So here Krishna is giving the instructions to Lord Brahma, the first created being in the universe. And so it's very vital that Krishna is giving this instruction to Brahma, because Brahma is in need of enlightenment. So therefore, Lord Krishna is giving this instruction to the engineer or secondary creator of the universe. So that's correct. Okay, let's move to the second image. Anyone want to describe that? Okay.
Sure. So in the second image, Krishna is, it's during Mahabharata, when Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight.
Right. Okay.
Right? Because he never wanted to fight, because he sees his own people. And
Right.
then it's his, he's preaching him that it's your karma.
Okay, wonderful. So yes, you're right. So Krishna is preaching to Arjuna, and as you can see, Arjuna is not really in a position to fight there. He's just sitting on the chariot,
Yeah.
right? And then Krishna is the chariot driver. So Krishna is risen. Again, this is during the Mahabharata time, during the Kurukshetra war. So as you had mentioned that, Krishna is enlightening Arjuna. So a secondary question to this picture, why is Krishna doing this? In addition to erasing Arjuna's doubt, why is he doing it? Is there a deeper meaning behind why he's giving this knowledge to Arjuna?
To restore righteousness, dharma.
Okay, restore dharma. But
Yeah.
why to restore dharma? Isn't dharma already there?
Whenever there's,
So, Prabhuji, it's a disciplic succession was broken.
Yeah.
So Krishna is again re-establishing it.
Yeah, correct. So that was kind of answer I was looking for. So the disciplic succession, Lord Krishna spoke to, Vivaswan, the sun god, and here Krishna is also giving the knowledge to Brahma. But then that succession, that lineage of teacher and disciple was broken. So therefore Krishna had to come again and share, preach the message. All right, the third image. Who wants to explain the third image? Okay, you can try.
I believe it's Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva.
Yes, that's right. So it's Narad Muni and giving instructions to Srila Vyasadeva. And yeah, that's also that can be seen here. Okay, so go to the next image, the fourth image. What is that? Okay.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
Going
spreading
Shakti,
the
right?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spreading the holy name, chanting of the holy name
Okay.
with his associates.
Okay, so he's with his associates. So who are his associates? Are they?
Panchatattva,
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita, Gadadhara, Srivasadi.
Is it just the five of them doing it?
No, there are more.
There are more, yeah. So there are more associates. So that's right. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is spreading the Sankirtan movement out in public. So we have that. Okay, going to the second row. What is that image? So what's happening there? Oh, Kashyapa Muni. There we go. Local Brahmin.
I believe these are 6 Goswamis,
Yes.
who are the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
And, spreading the Krishna consciousness. That's the next one.
Yeah, so they're writing on something called scribes. So they're kind of these leaflets, and then they write the knowledge down, basically disseminating. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Krishna, and he's actually Krishna in Kali Yuga, as we have the wonderful deities here, Shri Kali. So they're writing it down in scribes because Lord Chaitanya left the Shikshashtakam, and so he gave that Shiksha in eight verses. But then the real philosophy expanded was given to the Goswamis to do. So they were kind of put in charge, right, as representatives. Okay, next image. Special for me.
That is Guru and father of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And so he's the father as well as the teacher, Guru of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Yeah, that's right. So a teacher, father of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also known as like the grandfather of the Krishna consciousness movement. So is very vital. Okay, next. Okay.
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj.
Yeah, so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj,
Who is Guru of Srila Prabhupada.
Guru of Srila Prabhupada. Okay.
Because of whom we are enjoying this movement in the West. Because it was his instruction to Srila Prabhupada to go and preach. in the
Exactly,
West.
yeah. So there's a theme of, preaching and also giving the instruction to the various disciples. Okay, wonderful. Next image.
Srila
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, so we have Srila Prabhupada here. And what's unique about Srila Prabhupada? Yes. Can anyone share what's unique about him that differentiates him from any acharya? It's not a trick question.
He was willing to experiment,
Okay, he was willing to experiment. In what way?
initiating females.
Yeah, giving Diksha to women, like second initiation, happened in Canada actually, and go and spread the movement in the West. Okay. Last image on the bottom right. What's that about?
It's all devotees.
That's about the
Sankirtana.
Sankirtan, yeah. Kashapuni.
These are direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, okay.
I think I see Jamuna Mataji and these are the first initial disciples
Yes.
of Srila Prabhupada.
The first is so you have Yamuna Devi. On the left, you have Tamal Krishna Goswami. Actually, I was in Dallas 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago I was in Dallas for their Sunday feast, and they had Tamal Krishna Maharaj's Pushpa Samadhi there. So it was nice to go and pay respects and see the temple that he and community that he had established in Dallas in the US. So, and then you have Mukunda Goswami on the right. So yeah, they're jovially celebrating this. So now when you look at this full image in totality, so I kind of explain knowledge comes from Krishna to Brahma, and then Krishna comes again to reestablish it. What are some common themes? Maybe 3 common themes that you see from this. Okay.
Sharing knowledge.
Okay, so sharing knowledge is one theme. Okay, second theme.
The Sankirtan movement.
Second, okay, Sankirtan movement, yeah. What's the third common theme? Is it Krishna only doing it?
No, it's a guru disciple.
Yeah,
It's a
Guru
guru
disciple. So
disciple.
it's Krishna and his representative,
Yes.
right? So the message is the same coming from Krishna, but then we see, for example, Narad Muni to Vyas Dev. Narad Muni is not Krishna, but he is very empowered in the disciplic succession, pure devotee, giving the knowledge to Vyasadeva. And another thing we learn from this is Vyasadeva is also an incarnation of Vishnu, the literary incarnation, but he also accepts Guru, right? So even with Krishna, we have Sandipani Muni with Lord Brahma. And then with Lord Chaitanya, we have Ishvara Puri. So that's to demonstrate that even though Krishna is God, Chaitanya is God, they still want to demonstrate the fact that the position of a spiritual master is very important in one's life. So that's what we see here. And then the same message from, say, Narad Muni is saying the same message from Krishna. Then we have the Goswamis trying to share the same message of what Lord Chaitanya did. So that's very, very, very important. So we have Srila Prabhupada and we have Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So even though we have Srila Prabhupada on the altar as an Acharya, Srila Prabhupada had disciples and he wanted the disciplic succession to continue, not just to end with him. But what's the difference between a Guru and Acharya? Like Kashyap Muni, our resident Brahmin.
Maybe I should not raise my hand anymore, so you can get an opportunity to say something.
Yeah.
So what I understand is Acharya is someone who preaches by example, versus Guru is someone who would maybe initiate as well as teach, but not necessarily by examples.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, Acharya literally means, to teach by example, but what I was more looking for was in the disciplic succession, Acharya would be someone who is like a very prominent personality in the disciplic succession. So the difference between, say, Srila Prabhupada and his disciples or gurus, or maybe Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, is that he is a prominent, in the disciplic chain, that he made some vital, adjustments so that we are able to share Krishna consciousness and, as you said, benefit because of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that's why when we have a Murti of Srila Prabhupada, the reason why we do that is because he is the founder Acharya, right? And nobody can replace that Acharya sort of position. And there may be gurus, who are, his disciples and grand disciples, but the Acharya is one whom everyone is, under their tutelage, so to speak. Does that make sense, everyone? So similarly, another thing that I'm trying to showcase is the disciplic succession is also up to us. So those of us who want to take responsibility as initiates to continue what was given to us. Otherwise, what if we stop continuing that? What happens?
The succession breaks.
Yeah, the disciplic succession breaks, right? So amongst the Sanatan Dharma pantheon, those who follow a disciplic succession, also known as the Guru Shishya Parampara, is very rare, right? So what's unique about Iskcon and Iskcon Oakville or any of the Iskcon centers is we may not we may not have the biggest, fanciest marble temples or, fanciest domes or whatnot. But what we do have is trying to showcase an embassy for disciplic succession, where the sampradaya or the tradition that's been coming from Krishna to Brahma, and actually Brahma is the head of our, sampradaya. It comes from Krishna to Brahma to Narada, Vyasa, right? So we are part of that succession, and it's up to us to, continue that succession for many generations to come. So was that helpful? Was that informative?
Right.
So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that we follow the instructions of the Acharya. So naturally, we as grand disciples, Srila Prabhupada is a preeminent Shiksha Guru. Shiksha Guru means a spiritual master who gives instruction. And he mentioned that Iskcon has 7 purposes. And the 7th purpose mentions that with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. And Srila Prabhupada also had an instruction to His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami, who left this world last year, mentioning that my books are sold because of the enthusiasm of my disciples. So it's important that we learn about discipleship and how it's important to remain enthusiastic. Because unless we're enthusiastic, we cannot really sustain our Krishna consciousness. So that enthusiasm, must be there. And oftentimes people ask that, okay, it's fine that you have programs, you have japa, you have prasadam, but what do you do for other people? Right? A lot of people who come maybe new to Krishna consciousness or to Iskcon, they may ask, okay, it's nice, incense and flowers and festivals, and you have your own sanghas, kirtan, but what do you do for others? So that's something that, Srila Prabhupada very much wanted to do in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, where it's a concept of para upakar. Para meaning supreme, so the societal welfare. So here Srila Prabhupada says that he, the devotee, is not interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest. Rather, his interest is in the busiest part of the world, where he teaches people Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose. So I know, Prabhu, you were mentioning that movement, right, with the Hare Krishna movement. So another question is, what does the movement mean? Anyone? So when we talk about, okay, Prabhu was mentioning this is Hare Krishna movement, right? So you must know what movement means. So what's being meant by that when you're saying Hare Krishna movement or Krishna consciousness movement?
Something that's moving or expanding?
Yeah, so something that's moving and expanding. So what we are attempting to do is, it's not just meant to be a stationary sort of goals, and you come to the temple, offer your obeisances, give a little donation, have some prasadam and leave. It's about expanding and sharing. So that movement meaning having an active principle. So here you see that, one may think that, let's go to, the Himalayas, or go to the forest, or go to the, countryside and engage in so-called meditation, which is more for Satya Yuga. But says that rather be in the busiest part of the world, which is the opposite. You may think that, okay, going to the Himalayas is peaceful, but you're going to the cities like Oakville, and you teach people Krishna consciousness. And basically, Srila Prabhupada says that the Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose. And the reference is from Srimad Bhagavatam, but there's a small boy named Prahlad. And Prahlad said that I don't want to, when I think about my own spiritual journey, I don't want to think about my own spiritual journey. Why don't I help other people too? Right? So how do you connect to other people is when we have this ability where we are in a busy, metropolitan area, and we have that opportunity to do so. And when we take on that opportunity, we benefit more because that's the sampradaya. The sampradaya, the word which is the tradition, the word samprada means to give. Right? So when we give spiritual knowledge, that is really core part of our sampradaya. So there are two sort of legs of bhakti. One is Shravanam, which is concentrated hearing. What is the second?
Kirtana.
Kirtana. So that's concentrated chanting. So similarly, when you observe the kirtan that we do, it's usually there's a leader who chants, which means everyone's silent, and then they are the chorus, and then the leader is quiet, and this way it creates the harmonizing effect of hearing and chanting mantras. So if one is studying or one is reading, that is also known as a shavana, because they are the spiritual sound has been transcribed, it's put in a book form, and then you read. So what is the kirtanam equivalent of that? So Shravanam is the reading.
Right.
Okay, you said writing. Okay, what else?
Preaching.
Preaching. So Srila Prabhupada explains in one purport, I don't know where, but it's one of the purports that I've read, it means explaining. So you read and you explain. When you read, it's like 50%, right? It's just like, okay, when I'm coming to a kirtan, I'm just hearing, but I'm not going to say. Sometimes, newcomers, we feel a little bit apprehensive for chanting. So we say, okay, well, I'll just listen. But when we listen and we chant, then we get the full benefit. So similarly, when we read, but then we also take some time to explain it to somebody, right? Somebody in our home or maybe somebody who's new. Then it's the balance, Shravanam Kirtanam. And then we also, the best way to learn is also by teaching. When we teach something, somebody asks us questions, and you'll be like, okay, well, I don't know the answer to that, I'll get back to you. So this way it furthers your Shraddha, which means your firm faith in Krishna by learning about this. So that is from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is perfect for us because we have that opportunity. We live in a Western country, we live in a big, metropolitan area, so we just have to literally, go out and do some service, and that's it. Even if it's just once a month, we have to, always think about how we can share this Krishna consciousness. Because unless we share, then we're not really part of the Sampradaya. Because if I showed you the image earlier, that all these, personalities, even Krishna himself is preaching. And not only does he have to preach once, he has to preach many times. It's not that Krishna says to Brahma and says, okay, I'll see you after the universe is destroyed after 311 trillion years. No, Krishna comes back again. And then Krishna comes back again as Lord Chaitanya and to teach it. And in fact, Krishna also teaches, again and again by example. So therefore, this para upakara is so important that we engage in sharing. Another aspect is ahimsa, which is a core tenet, ma ahimsayat sarva bhutani, which means you must be non-violent to all the living entities. So it is said here that non-violence is general taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped in ignorance of the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people, so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence. Now from Bhagavad Gita 13.8 to 12 purport. So here we see that ahimsa is a very core part of Sanatana Dharma and Vaishnavism. But here Prabhupada says is, ahimsa is not just being vegetarian or, having an ahimsa diet. It means that people are suffering and put into distress because of karma, and we ourselves are trying to explain to them with real knowledge, which is tattva, so that they may become enlightened and they leave the bodily concept of life. So that is the true, a higher definition of non-violence. So from this we understand that even when we look at our Vaishnava prayers, it says, Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. So patitanam pavanebhyo, so what it means is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are like desirees and who are full of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls, right? So that compassion comes from the fact that I'm gaining so much benefit, just like as Rohini Shakti said, that we are gaining the benefit from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that we get to be in this association in such pure goodness. There's so much evil and bad influences in the world, But of all things we can do, we are here and associating with each other with a specific program in which we can get to a more spiritual state of consciousness. And that's only because of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta having the vision of sharing the message in the English language, for example. Because let's say if this wasn't available in English, people like myself, it's like not very accessible. So we are indebted to our spiritual preceptors, and therefore practicing ahimsa means to also share this knowledge with other people, because it's not good enough that it's only for us. We also want to take all others with us on this spiritual journey, and that makes it a lot more fun. Another thing is Desha Kala Patra, which is time, place, and circumstance. And here Srila Prabhupada says that when our members change their dress to meet the public or to introduce our books, they are not breaking the devotional principles. The real principle is to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. And if one has to change into regular Western dress for this purpose, there shall be no objection. So here Srila Prabhupada is being, what Shita Lakun says is practical in a purport instruction from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And, when you think of, sadhus or, spiritual people, they may be wearing, the saffron robes and so forth. But in the Western countries, it may not be as relatable to meet people where they are all the time. So therefore, especially for those who are householders, if they wear Western clothes and go to a university or go to an event where it's, the weather might not be as warm, for them to wear Western clothes and doing so, there's no objection, because the main thing Srila Prabhupada is concerned about is spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. That's the real purport. He doesn't care about sort of these, let's follow these orthodox rules, or, every Ekadashi, let's do Nirjala Ekadashi, let's fast from water, or let's follow Chaturmasya, even though Prabhupada never mentioned those things. All these extra rules are there because people just want to follow because they're bored. They don't want to spread Krishna consciousness. But our movement is rather, we chant Hare Krishna, associate with devotees, we honor Prasadam, and at the same time, we are practical in the sense that we want to be engaged in how do we share the Krishna consciousness movement. So that's, and Prabhupada said, you can do it in a very practical way. So we have a picture here on the right in Ottawa, Ontario, where we have Mandala Ram Prabhu on the right. He, is in charge of the Govinda's restaurant, and he's going to University of Ottawa, which is a short walk from the temple, and sharing books with people at a book table there. So something as simple as that. Like, he's a busy person, running the restaurant. He has a small daughter, right? But he takes time out of his day to go and do some Sankirtan Seva, right? So that's really important. And then Kashyapa Muni talked about Acharya, which is teaching by example. So Srila Prabhupada says, I have no personal qualification, but I simply try to satisfy my guru, that's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. That's from a lecture in Los Angeles. And from a purport, Srila Prabhupada says that whoever who tries to sincerely present Bhagavad Gita as it is, will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. And as such a result of such pure devotion, he's sure to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's from a purport there. And here you can see a picture of Srila Prabhupada that, traveling at an airport and giving a book to, a passenger there and talking to him in a very, nice and pleasant way. So sometimes when we share Krishna consciousness, we must also do so in a way that's pleasing and also pleasant for the person to also hear. So that's a very important part of the Acharya, where Srila Prabhupada himself is, teaching by example, and he wrote all those books at night, right, for our benefit, translated all of them, right? So that's kind of the Acharya principle that we have, and we can gain inspiration from. So then the Lord, as I mentioned, instructs again and again. So anyone want to describe what the image on the left is?
I believe this is Dhruv Maharaj and Krishna has appeared, or Lord Krishna has appeared in front of him in the forest and he was doing meditation. I'm not sure. So,
Okay. Any other guesses? So I said the hint is on the top. The Lord instructs again and again. So this is second time. Okay, another guess.
Lord Rama.
Lord Rama, okay. Any other guesses? Once, and once, twice. Okay, so that is Lord Krishna instructing to Uddhava from 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you might have heard of this Bhagavad Gita, this Uddhava Gita. And then this Vyasadeva there witnessing it. So Krishna instructs this message to Arjuna and also instructs this message in greater detail to Uddhava. And we can have that in 11th canto. Okay, the second image. What is that image of? Okay,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Rupa Goswami.
Sanatana Goswami. Okay, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna in Kali Yuga, embracing Sanatana Goswami. And the significance of this is Krishna is preaching to anybody and everybody. And Sanatana Goswami is from, working with the Muslim government. And, typically the Brahmins would say, you're outside of our community once you work with them. But we follow the principle of guna and karma, not by birth. So we reject the caste system. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is embracing Sanatana Goswami, and the devotee on the right, I forget his name, but he mentions that there's a Muslim beggar outside, right? So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the Paramatma within everyone, says that, well, that is actually my devotee. So then that's Sanatana Goswami. So, and then the instruction is Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Karo Krishna, Shiksha, which means, worship Krishna, praise Krishna, talk about Krishna, and teach others about the science of Krishna. So it gives us instructions to Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. So from this we say that God gives instructions to his expansion, which is Balaram, the Lord Nityananda, and also Haridas Thakur. So the instructions is there again and again. So when we look at Sankirtan, it's like our spiritual oxygen. It's what makes the movement grow. So Sankirtan is our spiritual oxygen. And that is, a way in which our movement is based around. Otherwise, what's the purpose of our movement? What's the mission of our movement? Right? Without this sharing of this knowledge, it just becomes something that's very stagnant. Right? And we don't want to be stagnant, we want to keep on moving. So when you look at if you're out in nature, you look at a stagnant pond versus rushing water. Which one is cleaner? The rushing water. So similarly, we want to be like rushing water instead of a pond. Because when you have a pond and you have a spiritual institution, then what happens? Any guesses? So if you're a spiritual institution and you're like a pond which is not flowing, what happens in that scenario?
Dried up.
It gets dried up, yeah. Camaraderie.
Become rotten.
It becomes rotten. What else happens?
Contamination.
Contamination.
Algae.
Algae comes, but in a spiritual institution, stepping away from the analogy, what happens when there's a stagnation?
Don't grow.
You don't grow, yeah. Speculation. Was that it? There's people fight amongst each other, right? So, but Sankirtan, what it does is it unifies us because we have a common goal, we have a common mission, and it gives us oxygen because it keeps us ever fresh and always keeps us meditating on what's next to do, and it keeps us in a very positive thought process. And from our whole sampradaya, what do we have? That's from our sampradaya, from our tradition. We have books, yeah. So therefore, you can repeat after me. Book distribution is a good idea. The reason why is because it's the best way to share and preserve our Vedic culture and knowledge. Just like we have deities, like we have Gornitai deities, and we come here to have physical darshan of the deities. So similarly, physical books have the potency because it is sacred sound that has been transcribed and written down. So therefore, it's very important that we chant and we read from these books on a daily basis so that it gives us an internal cleansing. Just like we may take a shower, we might brush our teeth. Similarly, even if it's for 10 minutes, we should read these books because it shows that we truly, believe in what the wisdom is, and we want to go ahead in our journey. And then when we meet somebody, we can explain to them on what the wisdom is about, right? So, and goals are potent because, when we have goals in our life, especially spiritual goals, like chanting a certain amount of rounds a day, reading a certain amount of pages a day, it is very important. And when we want to go share, we can say, okay, at least once a month, let me do some activity that is sharing, right? This is very important because we're missing 50% of Krishna consciousness. One is hearing, the next is explaining. This we must do in whatever way possible because each of us who are assembled here, we talk to different people from different walks of life. That maybe a brahmachari and sannyasi may not be able to do. Sometimes we think, okay, brahmachari and sannyasi, they are the preachers. I'm just householders, I won't preach, right? But we come across so many people in our life, whether they are friends or random strangers, right, who are looking for this knowledge and, be able to give it to them in different doses. So basically you can assume it can be done, which is a nice motto from our Bhaktivedanta Book Trust and our global minister by Shri Shikha Prabhu, who says that, okay, you have a challenging goal, but assume you can do it, and you're just Lord Chaitanya's instrument, that's all. Whatever happens, happens, right? But you're just God's instrument, you're just Krishna's instrument. So it's important to have a mission-oriented management, where when you think about managing your own spiritual life or managing a temple or managing a department, it has to be based on this mission. So that's what unites us, right? There's so many things that can divide us, right? We can be divided on culture, we can be divided on language, we can be divided on where we were born, we can be divided on age, we can be divided on ethnicity. But what really unites us is that we are all souls, right? And Krishna is the Supreme Father. And that's what ultimately unites us. And then if our mission is to connect more souls to Krishna and have a mission like that, then we find ourselves to be more in our constitutional position, right? So when we do book distribution, it's also important to also have a follow-up, sort of a hand in hand. Just like if you have, you have some pakora, right? What do you have with the pakora? Chutney, right? What if you have pakora without chutney?
It won't taste as good.
Yeah, it won't taste as good because it's very dry. Or just like French fries, what do you have it with? Ketchup, right? So similarly, book distribution, you do book distribution and you do follow-up. It's just like having pakora with chutney. Yes, you can have pakora by itself, but if you have pakora with chutney, it's better. So similarly, when we do book distribution, and if each one of us does a little bit of book distribution, then and have a follow-up. So what's the follow-up? You spend time with them and answer their questions. You have a reading program, so sometime during the weekday for 45 minutes, right? Get together and read. Maybe read it in a language that you're more familiar with. Or maybe read it with a group that's, your peer group. You get together with your peers or your friends who are like-minded. Get together and it becomes a support because you're supporting each other in your spiritual life with Krishna in the center. It's a very powerful program. And ultimately what it does is, it builds community spirit. Because, there's a lot of things that can do, separate us apart, but what unites us is Krishna, and Krishna's devotee, and Krishna's, the way in which we can connect to Krishna, which is Bhakti Yoga. So Rupa Goswami says, we must get rid of, in order to practice pure devotional service, get rid of all this jnana and karma, and just focus on bhakti. And when we focus on bhakti, that can truly, unite us all as loving servants of Krishna. So that's how we must look at each other, as loving servants of Krishna. So, any questions or reflections thus far before I go into some of, exciting reports? Okay. Is that Kashipuni? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
What I have generally seen is that, outside of the Iskcon community, there is one common complaint is that we are talking about paro dharma, right? Like paramupkar.
Paropukar, yeah.
Paropkar. But what about the immediate needs of the people that are, going hungry and starving and all those, those kinds of, which are more bodily related. We know that.
Right.
But if we have to give feedback to, or if we have to give an answer to people who are asking us that, don't put milk on Lord Shiva's, this thing.
Yeah.
You'd rather give it to hungry people, and then so many hungry people can be fed. And so, what is caring? Is not that also care versus what we are talking about is paropkar?
Yeah, you can, I think that's the famous parable where you give a person some, the example is given is fish, but you give someone food to eat, or you teach that person how to get food, right? So what we are doing, which is, every Sunday we have prasadam, right? We organize a free feast for the whole community. Is anyone banned from coming?
No.
Nobody's banned from coming. So that's one thing that we constantly, sometimes we don't realize it, that we put so much effort into, preparing so much prasadam for so many people, but a person brand new can walk in and they get free prasadam, they get association, they get some education for their children that are often available, and they get good company, which oftentimes is not there. A lot of people are lonely, so they get that sangha, they get their food taken care of, and also they're given a way in which, when we give the knowledge, it teaches them how to live a life in which they can simplify themselves. Because even if a person may be not as wealthy, but they may be addicted to so many things, like, okay, I'll spend my money on lottery tickets, or gamble my money here, gamble my money there, instead of, okay, well, why don't I just get something that I can offer to Krishna instead of wasting my time here. So in terms of bodily needs, even if you go to Iskcon Vrindavan, they serve 3,000 people for breakfast every day, and we get random sadhus who just walk in there and do it. So paropkar, we try and do that, where we try and give not only food, but we give them Krishna prasadam, because it's food that frees them from karma. So we're not food distribution people, we are prasadam distribution. And each of our centers, we distribute Krishna prasadam, which is different from food distribution, because any sort of food may be contaminated or may cause additional karmic, consequences. But we are distributing Krishna prasad, so we may be not doing it in high quantity, but to our capacity, I think most temples are doing their best with the weekly program. Some places have a restaurant. Some temples they have full monastery, so they have daily prasadam. So we are trying to help people, but people also should also be seeking that help too, and willing to come. And oftentimes we see that there's a little bit of a miss that people are just. I remember I was at a Rath Yatra once, and people were hungry, and I said, well, we have prasadam, and they said, oh, we're not interested, we just want money. Right? So it's like, well, are you really hungry, and you want food? We're offering you food, and you just want some money for doing drugs, So it's like we try our best, even with our Rath Yatras, we feed thousands of people with prasadam, which is a very rare commodity. So we try and reach out to people, and devotees do their best. And like I mentioned in the previous slide here, sometimes we need to spend time with people, right, who may not be, Brahmins or, interested in Vedic culture at first, but they show some interest, and we just spend some time with them, talking to them, meeting them where they are, and giving them some sort of sangha where they can come and share what they're going through and be centered around the Bhagavad Gita. So does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So sharing can take in different forms, but sharing of knowledge is so important because when they share knowledge, automatically they'll become vegetarian, they'll become, centered around God-centered values. They transform their whole life, right? So we don't have to artificially form a vegetarian society, a ahimsa society, a para-upkar society. By practicing Krishna consciousness, automatically you want to be kind to other people. Because Krishna is Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, the friend of all living entities, right? So what I'll do now is show something interesting that's happened around the world, which is our book distribution scores from 2024. We had a record year for Canada in terms of distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam and also Bhagavad Gita. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
I didn't hear a yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is the map for Canada where we did Srimad Bhagavatam, the full, encyclopedic sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we see that it may be a little bit tough to see, but we have Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, Mississauga, Milton, Burlington, Brampton, Toronto, Niagara Falls, Oakville's here, Stouffville, Muskoka, Scarborough, Ottawa, Montreal, and Halifax. So quite a lot of centers that participated in, this large set of distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam, and our score was 1,140 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. The year previously, we only had done, I think, 592. So we basically doubled our set distribution. And this, helps you connect you to Krishna, because this is the Amala Purana, the purest of all Puranas, and is, gives you additional information on Bhakti. So that is, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's how we did across Canada, and our goal was 1,000. So remember I talked about goals. We have a goal to chant 16 rounds. We have a goal to do this and that. So we have a goal to distribute 1,000 Srimad Bhagavatam in 2026. So we did this in 2024, which means we can pretty much take a little bit of a break in 2025 and 2026 because we already achieved our goals here. But the goal is to share this knowledge far and wide so that we can preserve this knowledge going forward. Alright, so next is Bhagavad Gita as it is. So for Canada, we had, the Bhagavad Gita, if you have a Bhagavatam versus Gita, Bhagavatam is a big set, Bhagavad Gita is a nice compact book. So it's a little bit easier to distribute, which means a lot of our smaller temples also, and smaller centers also get to participate. So we have Vancouver Island, Vancouver, Sharanagati Village, we had Grand Prairie, Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary, Saskatoon, Regina, Manitoba, and we have Thunder Bay, Toronto, Russian-speaking, Milton, Mississauga, Stouffville, Barrie, Toronto, Niagara Falls, Hamilton, Oakville, Burlington, Brampton, Muskoka, Scarborough, Ottawa, Montreal, Fredericton, and Halifax. So a total of 28 centers participated, and we distributed 26,398 Bhagavad Gita. Including sponsorship, so that's wonderful. So across the country, that this many Bhagavad Gitas have gone just in a 3-month period, which is October, November, and December of 2024. So we want to spread this knowledge because we have faith in these wonderful literatures that they can help people in their most darkest need and on a daily basis as well. So that's Canada. And then briefly, I'll show you what's happening around the world. Are you interested in around the world?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go to our neighbors to the south, the US. So they did 221,667 Bhagavad Gitas, and you can see all the different, centers that have done it for the US. And them and us, we form sort of North America. And that's quite promising to see so much, different centers, Iskcon centers that have active participation in Bhagavad Gita. Then we go to South America, or Latin America, I should say, where we have kind of the Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking countries. These countries, so they did 10,851, and most people are Spanish-speaking people or Portuguese-speaking people. So from Mexico to Argentina, we have multiple different countries that do it. Oftentimes, people who live in these countries, they can't afford a lot of these books. People are very poor. We're actually quite fortunate to live in North America, and we're actually quite wealthy, even though we have so many problems here in Canada, in terms of what's going on. But at least, South America, the temples there, they kind of struggle. So they're trying their best, but here we see even in South America, there is book distribution taking place. So next we go to Australia and New Zealand. So we call this Oceania, and they did 35,884 between, some big cities, some, rural communities like New Govardhan, and then, we have, New Zealand there. So that's our, total for the Australia region. Then we go to Europe, and in Europe they did 78,746 Bhagavad Gitas. So you have, UK, Spain, Portugal, France, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Czech Republic, Ukraine. See, imagine, they are in a war and they're distributing Bhagavad Gitas. They distribute 3,343 Bhagavad Gitas, even though they are getting bombed and they're closing the temple, and it's quite remarkable that despite being in such a war-torn country, they're distributing Bhagavad Gitas there to local Ukrainians, right? It's not that there's a huge diaspora from the Indian or South Asian background. Like all these Eastern European countries, they do that. Bulgaria, Serbia, Hungary, and even Russia as well. They also do. Russia has so many devotees. There are thousands and thousands of devotees in Russia and Ukraine. So it's something that's really, amazing to kind of know and see. Then we go to Africa. So in Africa, it's again another, very pious people, God-loving people are in Africa. So you go to South Africa or Tanzania or Kenya, Uganda, so forth. Mauritius is also included here. So you see the 17,167. There's great potential in a lot of the African devotees taking up Krishna consciousness. Then we go to India. So they are at quite a large number because of the home of our Vedic culture and roots. So they did 4,042,000. Bhagavad Gita. Very amazing to see, India, really, do lion's share, and the foreign countries are able to do what we can. It's all obviously a different challenge in the foreign countries, but India was really good. Then you have the Far East, which includes Dubai and the Madhya Pradesh, Nepal, Thailand, Malaysia, Tokyo, and Japan. There's one country that's missing from here. Can anyone guess what that country is? China, yeah. So we are missing. There's Hong Kong there, but there's one important country that does a lot of book distribution that's missing.
Singapore?
No.
Nepal.
Oh, Nepal's there.
Nepal is there.
Sri Lanka?
Indonesia?
Not Pakistan.
Sri Lanka.
No, no,
Taiwan?
not Taiwan. Oh, I can't believe you're not getting this.
Tibet.
Huh?
Tibet,
Bangladesh.
Yeah, Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh does so thousands and thousands of books, but unfortunately due to the situation there, they can't go out and preach. Whereas we are so lucky, we can go outside, we won't get arrested for having some sort of program in the park or having going to a house program and sharing with new people or doing harinam on the street. But there it's a very different situation. But Bangladesh is usually very, very active in book distribution. Actually, the year before, Bangladesh did 9,000 Bhagavatam sets. So remember, we were doing 1,000, they did 9,000 Bhagavatam sets. So Bangladesh is amazing. But, you know, due to the challenge there, it is what it is. So then we look at the whole world, just to give you a snapshot. So it's 4.5 million Bhagavad Gitas all around the world. So that's amazing. You can see North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Far East, India, and Oceania. So it's amazing that the whole manifestation begins because Srila Prabhupada has this desire to preach, which comes from Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, which is Jari Doko Kariko Krishna Upadesha. Wherever you go, share the message of Krishna. And because you have that sort of mission and goal, it manifests into something like this. So, yes, question.
But China is a big, we have, the population is high, right? Like, are we not able to, or we don't have to?
Yeah, so China, the problem is it's legal issues.
Okay.
Being a communist country, it's very like incognito. Like we have a temple in Hong Kong, but other places it's like very secret. Same like in Dubai, a lot of it is like they do local book distribution, but they do a lot of sponsorship to like Indian villages, right? So, all of Kavya did Dubai, right? Amazing. Yeah.
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
Abu Dhabi, yeah. So she did. So that's kind of the world picture. And I guess we have 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll finish off with a few more stories. So in order to be successful, it's good to conserve cultural capital, which means if you're preaching in the Western countries, we have to conform to certain standards that are more relatable to the Western people. Have a missionary spirit, so in order to have a successful center, even looking at a local basis like Oakville or wherever, it's good to have people who are, motivated, who are voluntary, using their time to share the teachings and practices. And the other thing is having good community, so having strong internal attachment, good friendships among the devotees. A temple is more than just the bricks and mortar. It's also the devotees and the relationships you have within each other. So that's what's important. Some of the Sankirtan stories that I have, on the top left, when we were in Ottawa distributing books, we were at this New Year's Eve festival, and this lady comes and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm into these spirituality, and what do you have?" And we have these stack of books called Saptarishis, and she appreciated the fact that we were there, because unless we make the effort and unless we are present at these sort of festivals or events, people don't know about this. So she ended up taking 7 books, and she gave like a donation of $120, which was amazing, because we were just asking for like 65, but then she gave 120. The second picture is a lady at a jewelry store where I was going in book distribution in Banff, and I took some books with me, and I saw, hey, there's a painting of Buddha there. So let me go to her and I said, "Do you do yoga?" She's like, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, I have a book on yoga." And then she also gave a little donation. The picture in the middle is before and after on Vancouver Island in November last year, when I had gone and I told the Vancouver temple, "Can you contact all the hospitals on Vancouver Island? I'm going on work." And then the devotee there, she contacted them and they said, "Yes, we want Bhagavad Gitas in our hospital." So then I loaded up the car with 3 boxes and then distributed them all, going personally to each of those hospitals. On the right, we have a Harinam in Montreal at the metro station there. It's a busy metro station, and there they chant Krishna's names. They have books there. People come, they drop $5. Devotee goes running after them, gives them a book and prasadam. So it's very nice. Bottom left, we have a picture in Edmonton where I was visiting, and a person I distributed a book to, her friend is into Eastern spirituality. So she said, "Why don't you connect with my friend?" So I said, "Okay." We shipped her a bunch of books during COVID, and I ended up meeting with her, a year and a half later, and she was super happy to, share and learn about Bhagavad Gita. And then the picture on the right there is I was traveling in a plane and I was minding my own business. I was chanting japa. I had my earplugs in, I was chanting japa, I had the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 in front of me, and this lady is asking like, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm chanting, I'm doing mantra meditation. And she's, what is this book about? I said, this book is about love of God, right? And she says, oh, and I showed her a little bit the Sanskrit verses and how you can increase your love of God. And she said, I'd like this book. So then I said, okay, this is my book, but I'll ship you a book, once I get back home. She's like, sure. So she gave me a donation, and she says she's from Tanzania, and she's from a Shia Muslim. She's a Shia Muslim background, and I'm a very, devout Shia Muslim. But I like this, knowledge that you have in this book. So she ended up taking Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1. On the right there, I met a guy who was asking for directions, and I said that, would you be interested in books on self-realization? He's like, sure. And then I showed him Science of Self-Realization, and he ended up giving a donation for that. And that was in Banff as well. And then the bottom right picture was at the Toronto airport in November. And this lady had surgery. And this is about what sharing is caring. Sometimes you just have to be nice. So she said she wanted some security person to come and said, I just had surgery. Can you lift this suitcase and put her on the security screening belt, right? But nobody was there because Toronto airport people are busy. So I said, I can help you. So I lifted the bag, put it in the on the belt. It went through security. And then after we went past security, she said, oh, thank you so much for doing that. I just had surgery. I'm traveling to Winnipeg. And can I buy you a coffee? Right? And I said, well, I don't drink coffee. But, and then she asked, like, oh, what are you here? Why are you going to Edmonton? I said, I'm going for a leadership conference. And then I said, how come you were in Toronto? She said, oh, I was here for a meditation sort of talk. And I said, oh, I have books on yoga and meditation. I have this book called Iskcon, which has 18 mantras, and it tells you how to lead your life and how to balance your life. And I said, would you be interested in taking this book for a donation instead of the coffee? She's like, sure. So then I ended up, after the security, giving her an Iskcon, and then she gave a donation. So you should always carry books with you because you just never know when you meet people. And Srila Prabhupada says that the result of this Krishna consciousness movement is one becomes increasingly enlightened and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time, but at every moment. Isn't that a nice statement? To enjoy life, with a thrill, not only for some time, but every moment. So that's the benefit of practicing Krishna consciousness, and this is a picture of Srila Prabhupada at the Toronto temple way back in the 70s. So, Hare Krishna.
I'll be looking for a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful presentation, first of all. And I have one question. In one of your slides,